Hey, how's it going, everybody? My name is Brian Murphy, and I'm just put together this little video about color to try to help you guys get a basic understanding of the color wheel for people that are just starting to learn about color. This isn't for the advanced artists; it's for people that are just starting out, just to try to get a grasp on color and the color wheel and how all of it works. In general, warm colors represent the sun and the colors of the sun, and cool colors are more like colors of ice. So I'm just going to pull up this color wheel right here. I often hear people talk about they say every time I make a color, it looks muddy, I can't make nice colors, my colors are too muddy. In reality, there really is no muddy colors. Muddy colors don't exist. It's that particular color maybe appears muddy because it's a little too warm or a little too cool. Generally, if something looks muddy, it's usually too cool for the surrounding area that it's in. So color is all about relationships. I can't stress that enough. That's what color is all about. You can't determine if a color is really warm or a color is really cold unless you compare it to another color. That's what warm and cool color. That's what you're basically saying. Is it warmer than or is it cooler than? That's one thing that you have to ask yourself. So first let me just go through the basic. I'll just point it out right here. You have the colors at the top right here. Your red, your oranges, your yellows, colors like that are going to be your warm colors. Your blues, your greens, your yellowish greens, violet colors and stuff like that are going to be your cool colors. If you look directly on the color wheel to the other side, which in this case you have red would be green, blue would be orange, violet would be yellow. That would be considered its complementary color. What happens when you mix two complementary colors together is they become to get grayer. In most cases, and basically all cases, but depending on the pigments that you use, sometimes you may mix certain pigments depending if you're working with an oil painting, if you're a tattoo artist, or maybe a watercolorist. Certain colors do have certain chemical reactions. So what in some cases, two colors that mix together, you may come to a certain end result, but with different pigments that are made from different chemicals, that may not exactly happen. So I can't stress to you enough, you really have to learn. Don't go out and buy a million colors, every single color you need. You can make every single color with just a few colors. And that's really what you should do. Start with a simple palette, mix up your colors, get to know what your colors do. Really get to know, make a little chart. Sit there and make it, even if you buy some cheap paint if you can't afford it. Mix up the colors. See what your colors do for yourself. Learn the colors yourself so that you know them like the back of your hand. So that when you look at your subject, or if you look into yourself and you're going to develop something out of your own mind, it's one less thing that you have to worry about. So a couple things that I ask myself before I am about to start something. First thing I look at, I ask myself, what is the value of the color? That would mean how dark or how light is that particular color. Secondly, what is the saturation of the color? You'll notice that around the edge of the color wheel, the colors appear to be very bright. They're very high in chroma. That would be like a color that it comes straight out of a tube, or really red or really orange. Colors like that are great if you want to do impressionist style work, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's amazing work that's done by that in that type, that style of work. But if you want something that's more natural to what we see in everyday life, you're going to find that the colors in reality are going to be closer to the center of the color wheel, which are going to be more grayer. Everything that we see is more grayer. You may see something, if you set up a apple and put it on a plate, and your first inclination is going to be, you know, that's red, I'm going to use red. 90% of the time, when you really look at that color, it's not pure red. It's a result of whatever is going on in that particular environment. If you have that apple sitting on your kitchen table, whatever the sun, it could be a sunny day, the sun comes in the house, bounces off the walls, everything is reflecting around and hitting that particular subject. And that's what really makes the color. That's what you're painting. You're painting the light that's hitting that subject. So depending where that subject is, it could change. You could take that same apple on a sunny day, on a cloudy day, you know, it's endless. So you got to take that into consideration, and that's going to really determine, you know, that's where that's where you're going to start seeing some colors that your mind wouldn't think would really be there, but they are, because in that situation, and that's how you're really going to make something look realistic, when you can learn to see all of these warm and cool tones that are reflecting onto the object. That would go to also, that's another thing that I would look for, is how warm or how cool is the color that I'm about to put down. By doing this, you're even controlling the edges, because by using the correct color, you could control whether you want a subtle edge or whether you want a harsh edge. You know, a harsh edge, just say for instance, you could go from, say for instance, you could go from a bright red to a light teal, for instance, and then you're going to have a bright red and then a light teal. It's going to be like a totally sharp transition from one color to the next, where if you used a bright red and then next to that red, you just took that red and maybe added a little bit of a different color in and put it next to it, so it's almost the same color but just slightly different, and you put that color that's just a little subtle difference next to it. Now you're not going to have a harsh edge. You're going to have an edge that appears to be like a seamless type of edge. So by controlling your value of the color, by controlling the saturation of the color, by controlling you know, or whether the color is warm or it's cool, you could control the viewer's eye, because depending on the edge is what is going to draw that person's attention to something. You're going to notice that your darkest dark areas and your lightest light areas is really what the person's eye focuses on first. Just like when you look at me now, you're focusing on me because the light is hitting me, I'm in focus. You're not really looking at the background because the background is blurry. So think about that when you're painting. The parts of the painting that you want to be, you know, that seem to be the most interesting work, that's where you really want to, that's where you want to put most of your work into, and that's where you want your sharp edges to be, your lights to be, your darks to be. That's what's going to focus the person's eye, so you could actually control what you want the person to look at. You could say to them, you know, I want the person to look at the eye first, and then I want them to look at the lips second, then I want them to look at the hair third. You could do that by varying degrees of edges, which is, in a sense, which can also be controlled with the color. But that's getting way too technical, so you know, I'm just going to stick to the basics for right now. But what I'm going to be doing in some further videos is I'm going to bring you guys on board and with the first person view, and I'm going to do some paintings and bring you into my tattoo studio and do some live tattooing and explain some of what I'm talking about so you could see it while I'm actually doing it, because talking about it is, kind of not really going to help you out that good. When I first started to learn about colors, about warm and cool colors, I would hear people say stuff like, that red is too cool, or that blue is too warm, and I would say to myself, well, I thought the red, the yellow, and the orange, and all of them colors were warm colors, and the blue and the green, and I thought they were cool colors. So how can a red that's supposed to be a warm color, how is that cool if red's a warm color? Well, here's how it is. Like I said before, it all comes down to relationships. Color is all about relationships. So if you don't have another color, there's nothing to really compare it to. What you're basically doing when you say is something warm or is something cool is you're saying, is this color warmer than, or is it cooler than whatever else it is that's there? So here we got this little crappy ass chart right here. So we have the same exact colors, but we got cool versions and we got warm versions of the same color. Here's your cool blue, here's your warm blue. This one has more reds and more warmer colors in it. That's why this one is warm. But we can take, just say for instance, we have this green right here. In this situation, this green right here is cooler than this. So we would say this is a cool green. But that's only, like I said before, that's only in this particular situation. If I take that same exact green and I put a cooler green than that around it, which I did right here, now that green is actually a warm green. Because the surrounding color is actually cooler than that particular green. So I can't stress that enough. Everything is about relationships. You want to get your local color, which is your local color would be considered whatever the basic majority of the color is. If you were painting an apple, then you would say, red, just red is your local color of it. And then when you look at it, depending on the environment, you're going to see areas on that apple where it looks like it may look like it gets a little redder in some areas. It may look like it gets a little bluer in some areas, and then that's where you're going to start to see and understand. Oh, okay, that's a cooler area. That's a warm area. Just like you have to balance your light and dark colors, you also have to balance your warm and cool. It's a balance of edges, it's a balance of value, it's a balance of temperature. It's basically a big balancing act. That's what art is. And once you could get a grasp on the basic understanding of some of these tools that help you to build what it is that you want, then you could start to develop what your vision is. Some people like to copy photographs or copy still lifes. Some people like to work from within. I'm the type of artist that I like to work from within. But with that being said, you need the tools to be able to build what is in your mind. So what I'm trying to get at is that you can't have one without the other. In order to be a well-balanced artist, you need to have both. You need to have the technical aspect of it, and you need to have a vision also. And so it's a good idea to start by just set up some basic, set up some little still lifes, whatever it is. Just throw whatever it is on the table, put a little light on it, and that's it. Just look at it, try to paint it, try to draw it, get to know your colors. The more you do that, and the more you can look at something and translate it. That's all you're doing. That's what art is. It's a translation. It's no different than somebody reading in a different language and translating it to English. What you're doing as an artist is you're looking at whatever that particular object is and translating it to what your vision is. And the more you develop tools, the more you'll be able to translate that into whatever it is that you want it to be. And you have more tools at your disposal. No different than a construction worker building a house that has different types of vehicles, or whatever the case may be. The more tools you have, the more options you have when it comes time to make that translation onto canvas. And that's where you get people, you get a lot of artists, and you look at their work, and that's where styles of artists come in. When you look at their work, you'll say to yourself, as soon as you look at it, you just know, like, I know that particular artist did that, or I know that particular artist did that. It's because that's their way of translating. When they see a specific type of edge, they go about it in a certain way to achieve that on the canvas. So that's basically what it is just, finding your tools to build it up. Generally, if you work in a realistic fashion, like I said before, you're going to find that your colors are going to be more gray. If you're trying to do a portrait where the person's face looks too orangey, you're trying to make a flesh tone that looks a little too orangey. It's no different than if you make coffee and it's way too hot and you put a little bit of cool water in it. It's the same thing. If you look at a color and the color looks way too warm to you, just put a little bit of a cool color in it, and you'll see it'll take that warmth out of it, and it'll start to cool that color off. The same thing goes both ways. If it looks a little too cool, put a little warm color in it, and and you'll start to see where you'll know when you got the temperature right. The best thing you can do is just work with it. Just get on the canvas, work with the colors, and you're going to see when something don't look right. And if it looks muddy, try warming it up a little bit, or try cooling it a little bit until you reach the temperature that you want. And that's the best advice that I can really give, because you can watch videos to your tone purple, and there's nothing that is going to really teach you as much as actually painting or whatever it is that you're trying to do with the color. You have to work with it. You have to get to know the colors. I guess that's basically it. I guess that's all I want to go over for this particular video. Thanks for checking out the video, and if